On May 14th, the Mississippi Supreme Court overturned Initiative 65 and ruled that the state's ballot initiative process is, quote, unworkable and inoperative. This left 6 ballot initiatives, including Initiative 65, void. The decision outraged many Mississippians and even inspired them to protest soon after the Supreme Court's decision. Hi, I'm Melissa Bass, the Product Engagement Coordinator at Mississippi Today. In this episode of MT Speaks, our healthcare and breaking news reporter Will Stribling speaks to 3 Mississippians about their reactions to the Supreme Court ruling and catches up with Mississippi Today's Geoff Pender to discuss how we got here.
What was your reaction when you saw the Supreme Court decision, not only invalidating, the medical marijuana program that passed, but, effectively killing the entire ballot initiative process altogether?
Sick to my stomach, nauseous, horrified, shocked, none of it good.
To me, that was just so horribly unfortunate, because basically when it gets to statewide, it was the will of the people. I thought that, okay, ballot initiative processes have been going on for a while. The legislative districts being reduced all those years ago, now affecting that in the Supreme Court. Now I get, hey, the Supreme Court is there to interpret the laws. I completely get the three branches of government and those sorts of things, but it just seems that that's something that we should have worked out a long time ago.
So how did we get here?
Medical marijuana initiative 65 ended up on Mississippi's 2020 ballot, essentially because our legislature kind of misread the political winds and failed to act. The push for medical marijuana going on in many other states was something that grew in popularity in Mississippi among rank and file folks, and our legislature again just couldn't seem to get together and pass anything on this. So voters and various groups took matters in hand. They gathered well over 100,000 signatures, put it on the 2020 ballot, where it passed very handily.
When did you first become aware of Proposition 65? And before that, what was your familiarity with the ballot initiative process in Mississippi?
So I started asking people and reading everything that I could find to read. I talked to a couple of physicians and a friend of mine who is a psychiatrist. And he had lived in Europe and practiced over there for several years. And he was very much in favor of the one that we passed. He said that he had remarkable results in a number of conditions that his patients had suffered from when he used medical marijuana, which was totally legal where he was practicing in Europe. And that there were much less side effects. You didn't have a problem with addiction like you do with opioids and that kind of thing. So he was very much in favor of it. A couple of physicians I talked to told me about some very horrible, physical ailments, chronic pain, cancer treatments, that kind of thing, that marijuana for many of their patients would be an awesome solution to what they were suffering.
Sherry Odd, a native Mississippian, is one of those patients. On May 5th, 2005, when she was still living in California, Sherry had run to the store to buy cat food, and while she was sitting at a red light, a drunk driver ran into her at 80 miles per hour, breaking her neck, spine, and both shoulders.
I have titanium plate here in my neck with a cadaver bone. So every so often I look up to heaven and hope they're in heaven and say thank you because somebody donated their bones. My spinal column from shoulder to tailbone is 26 inches, and 24 inches of that, 2 feet, is titanium cage with 7 or 8 titanium discs, 31 titanium screws, some of them 3 inches long. And then my left shoulder is titanium and rubber. They want to take my right shoulder, but I need an arm, so I'm saying no. But it's just a matter of time before they have to.
Sherry's accident left her in excruciating pain. Her doctors then prescribed her morphine, Lyrica, and fentanyl.
And that just made me sick. After umpteen years of being on that, a friend of mine, by this time I'm home. I'm still in a hospital bed, but I'm home. And a friend of mine came over and had a brownie. And I'm going, no, I'm not in the mood. She goes, Sherry, just take a little of it. I'm going, no. She goes, Jerry, just take a little of it. So I took a bite, and not knowing that there was marijuana in it, within 3 to 5 minutes, I was totally and absolutely out of pain. I was pain-free for the first time in several years. I mean, it was like I was before the accident. And I wasn't high, I just was pain-free. And I went to a doctor, and she actually told me, she said, you know, it's people like you that is the reason I got into this, because nothing else is working, is it? And I said, nothing works.
In 1996, California voters passed Proposition 215, also known as the Compassionate Use Act. The act was the first voter-approved state ballot initiative for medical marijuana in the U.S. and made it possible for caregivers and patients like Sherry to process and cultivate medical marijuana in California. In November 2020, 74% of Mississippi voters chose to enact a medical marijuana program of their own, Initiative 65.
However, it then ended up before the state Supreme Court. The way that happened was Madison Mayor Mary Hawkins Butler, just days before the actual November vote last year, filed a constitutional challenge with the state Supreme Court against Initiative 65. Her claim was that it was not properly on the ballot because of essentially outdated wording in both the state constitution and state law. A little bit convoluted or technical, I guess, but essentially the signature requirements to put something on our ballot and as a ballot initiative before voters required an equal number of signatures be collected from 5 congressional districts across Mississippi, parity, essentially. Well, the issue is that since the 2000 census, we've only had 4 congressional districts. So obviously the math didn't work. The state Supreme Court agreed with the mayor, ruled in her favor, and that not only voided Initiative 65, the medical marijuana program, but it also voided the state's entire ballot initiative process.
When you moved back to Mississippi, how did your treatment change, and how did you feel about having to leave that option behind in California?
The doctors here in Mississippi are so terrified of prescribing anything besides an aspirin that it was like pulling teeth to get anything. I mean, I'm talking anything. Even though my doctor from California explained to them that I never once asked for, my medication early, and never once did I abuse it in any way, shape, and or form. But the doctors here, I have to go to 2 different doctors to get anything. And my primary doctor, who's a very compassionate person, I had to literally beg him to give me one of the medications that I used to be on. And then I have to go to Louisiana to get the other one. And this is, by the time I get down to my doctor in Louisiana, my pain level is already up to a 6. By the time I sit in his office and wait to be seen, my pain level will go up to a 7 on the way to 8. And if pain level goes up to 8 or 9, I'll end up at the hospital because my mind will shut down from the pain.
Since the Supreme Court struck down the ballot initiative process, constituents have called on legislators to return to Jackson for a special session. During the session, legislators could have an opportunity to create a medical marijuana program and perhaps fix the language in the state's initiative process. If a special session is not called, the earliest that the legislature could enact a medical marijuana program would be in January when the 2022 legislative session begins. Reinstating the initiative process would take a 2/3 majority vote of both chambers of the legislature and then approval by voters, presumably during the November 2022 general election.
I think the inaction is just what's so frustrating. I wish they would call a special session, go ahead and pass medical marijuana as it was put out on the ballot initiative, and also fix where we can have statewide ballot initiatives in the future. I think the legislature could do both things and do it in a special session, knowing that, hey, this is only these guys want to get reelected. Come on, this is the will of the people. This is what the majority of people in your state want. I don't really understand what the problem is there.
So far, House Speaker Philip Gunn, Secretary of State Michael Watson, and Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann have voiced support for Governor Tate Reeves to call a special session. However, the governor has said that he will not call a special session until lawmakers reach a consensus on how to deal with medical marijuana and the state's ballot initiative process. While Lieutenant Governor Hosemann has said reinstating the state's medical marijuana program is more urgent, House Speaker Philip Gunn has said he supports reinstating the state's initiative process and has remained silent on the issue of medical marijuana. As voters wait for lawmakers to reach a consensus, they continue to advocate for medical marijuana.
People are out there now, getting high and driving and everything else, as where people like myself who need it to have some kind of a decent life. I'm sitting here right now and my pain is going up and up and up. And I don't know if you can tell from my voice that I'm attempting to overlook the pain, because if it gets too much, I'm going to have to cut this off. But people who want illegal marijuana, they can go and get it. I wouldn't have a clue where to get it. So who is the government hurting? The criminals? No. They're allowing the drug dealers to make money. They're allowing the pharmaceutical companies to make money. And they're causing people like myself, who has a body that has been totally destroyed. They're causing us to live a less than prestigious life. They are forcing us, and they're taking away our American dreams. There are things. I watch people walk. I watch people run. I used to go to the museum. I used to go to operas. I used to like to go to the zoo. I used to like to walk on the beach. I can't do any of those things because my pain level won't allow me to. But yet, if somebody wants illegal marijuana, they can get it anywhere they want to. So why is the elected officials in the Supreme Court, why aren't they doing their research? Why are they not aware of the fact of who they're hurting? They're hurting the law-abiding citizens. And we're not going to vote for any of them if they don't change their ways. And they better change their ways now.
That's all for the second episode of MT Speaks. Do you think Governor Tate Reeves should call a special session to fix the ballot initiative process? What do you think a medical marijuana program should look like in Mississippi? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you never miss an episode of MT Speaks.